The Smalltalk language, which was developed at Sherlock Park by Alan Kay and others in the 70s, introduced the term object-oriented programming to represent the pervasive use of objects and messages as the base for computation. More recently, a number of languages have emerged that are primarily object-oriented, but that are also compatible with procedural methodology. Two such languages are Python and Ruby. Probably the most commercially important recent object-oriented languages are Java, developed by Sun Microsystems, as well as C# and Visual Basic.NET (VB.NET), both designed for Microsoft.NET platform. Each of these two frameworks shows, in its own way, the benefit of using OOP by creating an abstraction for implementation. Those are followed by C++, that is O language 2.
I want reliable people that aren't going to be carried away. I mean, we're not murderers, in spite of what this undertaking.
The purpose of this series of video is not advocating against object-oriented model, but for advertising people from the proponents of the abuse of excessive layers and bureaucratic models. Tools leads for the feeling of deception for the technology and can be very harmful for the science and computer overall. We call those people as the O.O Mafia because they will claim your time and money for protecting you and your project from premature questions, which would be probably never happens, like factorizations for scratch, recreating a database with another provider, change of the front-end technology, changes whoever exists in the world, and they will always give the same answers. Those guys as really proponents of premature optimizations, which would be never needed in years, sometimes the one optimizing projects that even exist. Fallacy number 1. Object-oriented will solve all your problems.
You can act like
There aren't any proof that O.O for itself can lead a project to be successful. It will depend much more of the team and the management on it.
I never came to me for counsel, for help.
Fallacy number 2. O.O is more productive than procedural paradigm. Second, empirical data analysis from the references on this video is not necessarily true. Chose Studios concludes, an analysis of commercially developed software shows no significant difference between the productivity observed for object-oriented and procedural software development. And the other, this measure does not fully support the stipulation that O.O is overall more productive than no O.O for several reasons. The main factor of O.O is promoted as more productive is due to reuse technique. If you don't develop based on it, the productivity is much more the same of the other paradigms, including can be worse.
I need Don Corleone, those politicians that you carry in your pocket.
Fallacy number 3. All you need is one more layer. A famous aphorism of David Wheeler reads, all problems in computer science can be solved by another level of indirection. For some folks, indirection means a new layer, so we can complete the phrase with, except for the problem of too many layers of indirection. Well, layers can be very useful if used with caution. When you have to refactor several interfaces in class for doing some user stuff, like adding a new function into your business class, yes, you have a serious problem. Probably you'd put excessive layers on your design. In a oriented object program, a layer can read a different set of objects doing a specific task for separation of concern. If you have MVC, automatically we have 3 layers, which is good, but people tend to add much more, like delegate and service patterns without any reason. Those models lead to bureaucratic and slow development, furthermore rising the final cost of product. The problem of excessive layers is directly related to the fallacy about design patterns that will be discussed later. The layers concept can be confused with tiers. Tiers refers to physical environment like servers. Both object-oriented programming and relational database management systems are extremely common in software today. Since relational databases don't store objects directly, there is a general need to bridge the two worlds. The problem of bridging object-oriented programming, access and data patterns with relational databases is known as object-relational impedance mismatch. The real problem is ORM has many downsides on performance and can be severely slow down the development process. ORM added a new layer of complexity that in most cases is useless. From the web services perspective, is one of the worst practices is building a service using ORM. Services must have corporative value, so if a query inside a web service can be easily optimized against a database, it can be ineffective and won't add any value to the company. The SQL language is mature enough for dealing with all the relational databases ever created, and those are great pieces of software made by very decent engineers on the science field. It's hard to compare any ORM library created by some enthusiast open source folks against them. The use of ORM should be avoided always as possible. Relational model can be compared to object inheritance, and it's easily proven. The adoption of new frameworks, exceptionally common these days, where people without any better to do with their lives, creates it as plague in Middle Ages. It can be faced with serious approach and must be relied on test of concepts, check if the community is supportive and if the cases of success are trustable. There are many fake claims about how successful and productive a new framework can be. We can put on this account some emblematic examples like GWT, created by the giant Google years ago, but with lack of large adoption in the market. Indicators to be taken into account on the analysis can be job trends, blog articles, Stack Overflow threads asking for support, and every information you can get on the web. Exceptionally important is hearing people who effectively works on the technology. The programmer knows much more about if a framework is viable or good enough than a service person from the company support the technology. Don't believe in startup videos and pet store products. It's all prepared for work. If you try to custom something, you can have bad surprise. Look with suspicious to mathematical technologies. When you run a script and magically it does work, it doesn't work on the day-to-day development.
I've raised 1,000 young folks.
You must take control of what's being generated and have to be capable of testing and change something fast.